Finding balance is key, whether it's managing the economic tides or navigating personal struggles. In the next 30 minutes, we examine the delicate art of controlling inflation and then shed light on the loss of control that comes with alcohol misuse as we seek solutions. You're watching Jamaica Magazine, and I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. Welcome.
Here's an important reason you need to avoid or limit alcohol consumption. The World Health Organization (WHO) indicates that there is research evidence of a direct link between several cancers and alcohol consumption as a major contributing factor. It's been cited as a major contributing fact for cancer of the breast, colorectal, esophagus, liver, mouth, throat or pharynx, and voice box or larynx. There is no safe level of alcohol consumption, and the more you consume, the greater your risk. Protect your health. Limit your alcohol intake. Save your life. For help and more information, call the National Council on Drug Abuse (NCDA) at 876-564-HELP. That's 876-564-4357.
Good day, I'm Lisa Rowe and this is your JIS News for Thursday, March 6, 2025. The Jamaican government says it is seeking clarification from the United States on its recent announcement of a visa restriction policy targeting officials from countries that are engaged in the Cuban labor export program. The announcement was made recently by the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and includes foreign government officials and their families from countries involved in Cuba's Overseas Medical Mission program. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, says this development is concerning, given the positive impact of Cuban medical practitioners across the region. She says Jamaica and other heads of CARICOM countries have reached out and are awaiting response from their U.S. counterpart.
In the meantime, the Jamaican government is also examining the operation of our system. We have over 400 participants from the Cuban medical program at different levels: doctors, nurses, biomedical engineers, technicians. So their presence here is of importance to our healthcare system.
Minister Johnson-Smith was speaking at Tuesday's post-cabinet press briefing. According to the Foreign Affairs Minister, a meeting will be held shortly with CARICOM Foreign Affairs ministers, and more information from U.S. embassies across the region is anticipated at that time. Residents of the Dominican Republic can now travel to Jamaica for up to 180 days without a visa, be it for tourism or business. The visa waiver was announced by the Minister of Tourism, Edmund Bartlett, during a joint press briefing at the Jamaica Tourist Board head office on Monday, and took effect on Tuesday, March 4. He says it symbolizes government's commitment to fostering stronger regional bonds and creating new opportunities for tourism growth across the Caribbean. He adds that this development is also a step towards achieving multi-destination tourism, which has been a target for Jamaica over the last 5 years. Minister Bartlett points out that Jamaica has so far signed memoranda of understanding with the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Mexico, and Panama, and are in talks with Colombia to this end. Meanwhile, the DOMREP's ambassador to Jamaica, Angie Martinez, says this historic move is a circle of reciprocity, as the Dominican Republic has allowed free movement of Jamaicans to the country since 2007. She expressed gratitude to the Jamaican government and said the decision was indicative of nearly 2 decades of diplomatic work. The Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, has unveiled its new smart fare system, which seeks to improve operational efficiency and eliminate the need for cash transactions. The system, which uses state-of-the-art technology, was launched at the Halfway Tree Transport Center on Tuesday. It marks a transition from a card-based transaction system to an account-based one, eliminating the need for specialized equipment to process cards and top-ups. Minister of Transport Darrell Vaz explains that with the addition of a smart fare mobile app to come on stream soon, this will make it easier for commuters to add funds, check their balances, and even pay fares.
Smart fare is cloud-based and accessible via any web browser. This means vendors can now access the system through PCs, tablets, or their mobile devices, expanding availability and making transactions more seamless. With multiple top-up options at the JUTC ticket office, external vendors, the upcoming mobile app, and even though third-party payment systems, commuters now have greater flexibility.
By significantly reducing cash handling, the smart fare system also closes loopholes that allow for revenue loss.
This ensures that every dollar spent by a commuter goes towards improving services and expanding the JUTC network.
The JUTC has outfitted all its buses with the smart fare systems, and since the start of February 2025, the bus company has activated 39,305 cards, catering to various categories of commuters. Tuesday's launch also introduced the JUTC's Ride Right with Smart Fare public education campaign to encourage better and responsible commuting habits. The National Water Commission, NWC, has initiated emergency rehabilitation works at the Greater Portmore Sewage Pond to address the severe challenges affecting residents, students, and businesses in the area. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Matthew Samuda, made the disclosure following a tour of the facility earlier this week. The current condition of the western sewage ponds has led to intolerable conditions affecting citizens living in proximity and students of Greater Portmore High School. Minister Samuda says the western ponds will require a similar level of upgrade as was done at the eastern sewage ponds in 2022 at a cost of $935 million. The full scope of the emergency works is anticipated to be completed within 3 weeks.
We'll be desludging the ponds and installing 3 aerators over the course of the next week and a half. We believe this will bring significant relief to residents, and we'll be working very closely with the school administration and of course citizens to ensure that the work is done and done at a level that gives them the reprieve.
He adds that strict access control measures will be implemented to prevent waste deposits and prevent similar disruptions during school hours. Cabinet has approved the members of the Sexual Harassment Tribunal, which will have the authority to hear complaints and resolve disputes related to the Sexual Harassment Protection and Prevention Act. The law was brought into operation in July 2023. Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, Olivia Grange, named the 14 tribunal members during this week's post-cabinet press briefing at Jamaica House.
The executive membership, Mr. Ferdinand Algernon Smith, retired Court of Appeal judge, and he's the chairperson. Ms. Indira Persad, attorney at law, deputy chair, and Mrs. Karen Campbell-Basco, attorney at law, also deputy chair.
The other members include attorneys at law Kadra Folks, Debbie Ann Brown Salmon, Karen Thompson-Wilson, and Shanique Rose Clacken. Supreme Court mediators Camille Lee, Claire Pamela Miller, and Cavell Campbell will also serve. They are joined by Industrial Relations Consultant Donald Roberts, Senior Industrial Relations Officer with the Jamaica Civil Service Association, Junior Latipodaire, President of the East Jamaica Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, Dr. Merrick Dale Walker, and Reverend Dr. Devon Merrick Dick. And finally, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says acknowledging the strength and resilience of Jamaican women is more than just a courtesy, but a reaffirmation of government's commitment to supporting women's empowerment. Speaking on Tuesday at a special hosting of the post-cabinet press briefing, Dr. Holness recognized the 5 women who are part of his cabinet. The gesture was a pre-observance of International Women's Day to be officially celebrated on March 8. Prime Minister Holness points out that 38% of the Senate is comprised of women, and 13 of the 17 females in the House of Representatives are in his administration.
It is a demonstration of the progress that the nation has made, particularly by supporting and empowering women. And as Prime Minister, I am proud to stand at the helm of a government that recognizes the vital contributions of women to the success of our country.
The Prime Minister also highlighted that under his leadership, the country's first female ministers of finance and foreign affairs, cabinet secretary, and chief of defense staff for the Jamaica Defense Force have been appointed.
These women are leaders, decision makers, and trailblazers. And they have done an amazing job in uplifting people. Their dedication and service inspires us all.
And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Lisa Rowe. Thanks for watching.
Keep your heart beating strong. Your health is your wealth. Practice healthy habits. 30 minutes a day keeps heart disease away. Choose life.
When does a social drink become a serious problem? That's our conversation today as we tackle the difficult topic of alcohol misuse, explore the science, the consequences, and the resources available for those seeking help.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Theodore Henry. Drinking in a manner, situation, amount, or frequency that could cause harm to the person who drinks or to those around them is a common definition of alcohol misuse, a phenomenon that is posing risks to our population, both young and old. Mrs. Denise Bingham, Senior Director, Prevention, Public Education and Awareness Services Section at the National Council on Drug Abuse, is our guest today, and she will be diving into alcohol misuse and its risks. Welcome to the program, Mrs. Bingham.
Thank you for having me, Theo.
All right, let's jump right into getting some facts. Now, there's a picture in my mind. It's a very Jamaican picture. Everywhere, from morning until evening, you can imagine somebody with a little cup in their hand.
Yes.
And some bright yellow or orange
liquid.
or some kind of liquid in it, and we know it's alcohol.
Yes.
From first thing in the morning to first thing in the evening. So alcohol use is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. But how prevalent is alcohol misuse in Jamaica?
Well, let me give you some information from our recent drug prevalence survey that was done in 2023. So I'll give you a little bit of context regarding alcohol. So there was 77.4% of the population that said, yes, I have had alcohol at some point in my life.
Okay.
Well, we had 46% saying, I am currently using alcohol. So we're basically at 50% of Jamaica saying, yeah, man, I'm drinking.
Right.
Yes. Now, in terms of misuse, we had harmful alcohol use at 16% of our population saying they're engaging in that kind of behavior. Mm-hmm. And we did a survey as well in 2016, and we've seen a 4% increase in alcohol use as well.
We're trending up in use.
Yes.
Are we trending up in misuse?
Misuse is a little bit different because sometimes when you ask these survey questions, persons are not necessarily, it's a bit particular in how they answer sometimes. Right. So you may not necessarily get the truth and the real picture. Right. But for the most part, what we have found are persons who require specialized care when we did what we call our alcohol use disorder identification test. They call it the audit test. Mm-hmm. They identify 6% needed specialized care because they're dependent on alcohol. Mm-hmm. So therefore, those are the persons who need to be referred to specialized care in facilities like we have, like the Addiction Treatment Services Unit up by the University Hospital, right, or like Patricia House, which is a rehab center in Linstead, or like a Teen Challenge that is in Ocho Rios. So that part of the population actually requires that specialized care where they need to be out of their current situation or living situation situation or community or environment and be put in a specialized environment to help them with their dependency.
Got it, got it. And, you know, someone might be listening here and we're thinking, okay, I don't need specialized care, but maybe there's a sort of dependence, maybe emotional dependence, a stress reaction. What are some of the biggest health and social risks that we're looking at with misuse?
Well, for health, alcohol misuse is one of the 4 major risks for NCDs, non-communicable diseases. So when we talk about cancers, when we talk about cardiovascular diseases, respiratory diseases, cancers of the throat, mouth, the liver, cirrhosis of the liver.
It's interesting that cirrhosis of the liver came so low down on the list.
Well, I didn't do it in order, but...
I know, but what I'm thinking is usually people think, liver problems, but you've listed a laundry list of challenges.
Yes. So it's not just, persons may zone into liver, maybe they heard, their uncle who used to drink too much and, him liver and all that, they give him problems. But you have to recognize that alcohol affects many different areas of the body, and these are vital organs we're talking about.
Right.
So we're talking about for adolescents, drinking alcohol from early can change how the brain develops. And that's really for all drugs. I don't want to say alcohol and the person say, so everybody else is fine then. But no, for all substances, once young persons are exposed at an early age, it disrupts that development or that part of the brain that speaks to them developing what we call problem-solving skills, they call it executive functions, reasonability, analytical skills. So sometimes a person may say, but maybe this is why we're having some of these issues that we see in society now. Because some of these persons who we see now have been drinking from their in the teenage years. And so this probably has been something that has possibly impacted them.
Wow. So you definitely jumped into the other question I had in some of the impacts that we see in domestic environments.
Absolutely.
Road.
Absolutely.
And I like your answer. It's not just that I am under alcohol right now that might cause an impact, but the use of it for a lifetime.
Yes, because you can become dependent on alcohol. And research has shown the earlier you start, that actually promotes the longer you may become dependent on the substance and going into addiction and require that specialized care that we spoke about earlier.
Right.
So a lot of persons, they may know of some of the health risks and they're like, maybe, that may not be something that happens to me. But then most certainly the social implications too that you had highlighted, and let me go a little bit into that now, in terms of the intimate partner situations where, substances are involved, and usually particularly alcohol, domestic violence, even in the homes with the children. It's not just like the partners necessarily are the ones impacted, but also the children, the entire family, there's a breakdown that is seen. We talk about like our accidents on the road fatalities, injuries, the burden on the healthcare system because of this misuse of alcohol. I'm sure we've heard of some, story in the headlines about, some party taking place and there was some serious road fatality. Many persons have some story or the other over the years about some kind of situation like that. So I mean, there are many factors to take into consideration when it comes down to alcohol misuse, because it's widespread. It's not just the health risk, but it's also the societal risk. Also with work too, the low productivity at work, because you go in, you can't function, you need alcohol to carry you through because now you're functioning with it. You are not normal with it, and if it's signs like that, that's definitely a red flag. You need to reach out for help.
Red flag.
Yes.
Okay. I know the NCDA does support of individuals facing misuse challenges, but before we even get there, the NCDA wants to educate people.
Absolutely.
So I give you this moment. We've been talking about some pretty big cases of alcohol misuse, death on highways and that sort of stuff. But what are some red flags?
Yes.
Like give us that.
Okay, let me go back to something. So what the study also highlighted that there are some red flag parishes that we need to pay attention to. And I mentioned that before.
Parishes?
Yes.
Okay.
So Trelawney, St. Anne and Kingston actually had higher consumption rates than the national current use, which was at 46.2%. All those parishes had consumption rate at over 50%. And so our initiatives, when we get data like this and we we sit with it to figure out what it is that we need to do in terms of our interventions. We have to look at specific programs now. We're talking about, let's go down into that section here now, programs. So we're in schools at all levels, whether it's at the primary level, the secondary level, or tertiary level, have programs within schools that speak to specifically how we educate our young persons about alcohol. They can recognize signs from early, because for young persons, they're usually in the experimentation phase.
Does the NCDA provide any avenue for help?
Absolutely. We provide counseling support for persons and their families who are going through this kind of struggle. A lot of times we get calls from our helplines saying, I have a family member, they're drinking and they're not going to no work. So there are different levels to the dependency when it starts really going to a point where they really need help. So it may start very simple as probably I start missing work. Or it could start as, I keep drinking and I end up very intoxicated and maybe I have a fight with my partner.
Right.
But these things don't tend to just stop right there. They tend to escalate. And usually what we find is that when they have escalated is when we see the persons coming in. So we will implore persons, even when you see that family member starting at that point, have that conversation with them, because families are also the support unit involved, So we have to be very mindful, and we encourage families to support your family members when you see stuff like this happening, because maybe there's something else going on with them.
Right.
But nobody's there making themselves available to talk through maybe situations or problems that they could be having. So we always encourage that kind of family support. And then if it is that you are not able to handle situations, we are most certainly available to provide that kind of therapeutic support. Along with that, we will refer persons if it is that you are. Our services are what we call outpatient services.
Right.
So we don't have any rehab facilities, but we are most certainly in a network of all the rehabs, and we refer persons. If it is that when you come in and you do your assessment, it is found that you need more than what we have available.
Right.
Because we do offer counseling, but sometimes persons need more care.
More than counseling.
Flu season is here. Let's fight the flu with these tips. Stay up to date with recommended flu vaccines. Practice good hygiene, that is frequent hand washing and sanitizing, covering your mouth and nose when sneezing, and sanitizing frequently touched surfaces. You're also encouraged to eat a balanced diet, take vitamin and mineral supplements, stay hydrated, and stay away from persons displaying flu-like symptoms. Protect yourself this flu season.
Up next, the Bank of Jamaica analyzes the factors contributing to a low and stable inflation rate of 4.99% for December 2024.
Hello, I'm Melanie. Welcome to another episode of Inflation Watch, where Bank of Jamaica highlights the main factors influencing price movements in Jamaica. At December 2024, headline or annual inflation, which is the general rate of increase in the prices of goods and services as measured over a 12-month period by the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, was 5%. This is excellent news, as it means that inflation has remained low, stable, and predictable within BOJ's target range of 4 and 6% for 9 of the 12 months to December 2024. Inflation in December 2024 was primarily driven by increased prices for certain food items, including fruits and vegetables such as ripe bananas, oranges, watermelons, dried coconuts, carrots, and tomatoes, as well as higher prices for some starchy foods like plantains, yams, and green bananas. At December, supplies of these agricultural food items had not fully recovered from recent bad weather. December's slightly higher prices were also influenced by more expensive household rental, electricity rates, and food purchased from fast food restaurants and cook shops. Inflation at December was higher than the 4.3% recorded at November 2024, but generally lower than inflation for most of 2024. the lower rate of price increases for most of 2024 was supported by BOJ's monetary policy, generally lower wage increases, and stable inflation expectations by businesses. BOJ's Monetary Policy Committee began easing monetary policy in June 2024. Since then, it has reduced the policy rate on the current accounts that deposit-taking institutions have at BOJ from 7% to 6% per year at December 2024. Easing monetary policy signals that lending rates by financial institutions should be reduced since inflation has become anchored in the target range. Now that you're up to speed with the factors that influenced inflation at December 2024, my co-host BJ will tell you how BOJ communicates with the Minister of Finance when the inflation target is missed. This is part of Bank of Jamaica's transparency and accountability framework.
This is BJ with more facts on inflation. As part of Bank of Jamaica's inflation targeting responsibility, that involves achieving the inflation target of between 4 and 6%. The bank must inform the Minister of Finance when inflation is higher or lower than the target. This should happen within 60 days of Statin's publication of the inflation rate. The bank must outline why the target was missed and what measures it is putting in place to make sure that inflation returns to the target. To be fully transparent and accountable, this information is also published on the websites of the Ministry and BOJ so that the public know exactly what is happening. If the target is missed for longer than 3 months, the BOJ governor might not provide a month-by-month explanation, but give a progress report every 3 months. No central bank meets its inflation target all the time. But when the target is missed, the reasons should be things that the bank cannot control. You know, oil price go up, hurricane come, there's a drought. You get what I mean. In Jamaica, although BOJ work hard to achieve the inflation target of between 4 and 6% and keep price increases low, stable and predictable most of the times, sometimes temporary events can cause inflation to be higher than the target. Remember that our country depends on imports like oil, and Jamaica is prone to things like hurricane and long periods of little or no rain. Not to mention that this thing named climate change is making the weather more unpredictable. It's good that BOJ monitoring these things to try and limit their effect on inflation. More on inflation next time.
Thanks as usual, BJ. And that's a wrap for Inflation Watch, looking at the outturn at December 2024. Join us again next time when Bank of Jamaica will bring you another episode of Inflation Watch, where we track inflation and explore the factors influencing price changes in Jamaica. I'm Melanie. Walk good.
So, Bonnie, you renew your road license yet?
Babes, the road have me away. I can't even find time, but you know money I have to make.
Because see, I shall out them money the back for late fee and record fee when you sit down make your road license expire upon you.
Well, transport authority so we can apply online. And that me I go to now.
Operators of public passenger vehicles and commercial carriers, renew your road license before April 1 and avoid late penalty. A message from the Transport Authority.
This is where our journey ends, but only for today. Do join us again tomorrow when we'll bring you another informative program. In the meantime, stay connected via our website, jis.gov.jm. And while you're online, send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm or via X at JIS News. You may also find us on all the major social media platforms and through our mobile app that's Android and iOS compatible. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.